Now, we might have lost some of our friends last week, players. This much is true, but unlike the fate of those friends, the future has presented us with the gift of return. Too long awaited characters are finally back in the fold. Too long have we let them fall by the wayside. Too long have we kept ourselves busy to not feel their absence. Too long have we gone without what we need. I present to you Oscar the Grouch and Meg fucking Griffin. Seriously though, after getting a week to emotionally recover from episode 5, episode 6 of X-Men 97 or Lifedeath Part 2 has Professor X and Storm finally return, and in more ways than one, and thank goodness, okay? The episode is legit another kind of two-parter the way it handles Professor X's story and Storm's, but it's way better than Motendo in my opinion. We start off by seeing Deathbird and the Imperial Guard whoop Ronan and his Kree soldiers' asses. The Shi'ar have been around since X-Men issue 97. They've been pretty much the preeminent aliens that the X-Men will go up against, besides like the Brood. Technically they've been around since then, but I'd say we don't really see them all that well till issue 105. The actual Imperial Guard up until 107, that's where the motherfucking Gladiator actually debuts. He's insane, but then we see this motherfucker, and this right here is Vulcan, Gabriel Summers, the third Summers brother. Now he's basically an Omega level mutant. He has this like energy manipulation power, but he was a problem for the X-Men and everyone involved in this story called Deadly Genesis from like 2005, 2006. And I imagine since at the end of that story, he flies off into space, they might be changing that for the show, but I'd imagine Charles had to have known about this mofo right here. So I can't imagine him not being significant later. So remember that. But for perspective, this is like 1975 to 1977. This is the X-Men after 13 years of existing and the beginning of Chris Claremont's run of things on X-Men. And they get interrupted by a holo message from Lilandra, her sister, and the Empress telling everyone she's about to get married to a Terran. And we finally see Professor X, or this version of Professor X, after pretty much 27 years, after the last episode of season 5. So this is quite a big moment. I mean, he comes out walking and takes off his helmet, and he pretty much gets the same reaction I'd get if I take off my ox. The Shi'ar are not fucking with him basically, and the professor is trying to finesse a way to get his lady to move back to Earth with him, because like any good father, after leaving, he always comes back, or at least he thinks about it, and it's the thought that counts. I just love how Lilandra literally calls the X-Men his children. I like the implication that Xavier literally sees them all as his adoptive children. I love a found father figure, just not like that, you know? So he contemplates going back because he feels he still has more to teach them. Then back towards Storm and Forge, as the real one that Storm is, she is tending to his bite from the adversary as it's become infected, and the adversary kind of eggs her on how she is responsible for her condition, pokes and prods her, and we get some awesome horror elements here, especially as he's going in for the kill. As Forge uses some very familiar magic, banishes the demon to the desert. I love how they are adapting the story from the comics, which is essentially the fall of the mutants, which runs through like the concurrent New Mutants and X-Factor issues around the Uncanny X-Men. I'd say issue 220 to 227 of Uncanny X-Men is a good range of what to read if you want to get extra depth to this episode, besides the issue of Lifedeath. Like in those issues, Storm is adamant about finding Forge and getting her powers back, and she finds like his mentor, father figure, Naze, and he basically points her in the direction of Forge, and he's like this old motherfucker, and he trips, and she has to take care of him for a bit, but along the way, she is just getting attacked by all these demonic animals and real demons at a point, but that's because Naze is actually the adversary, and he slowly pushes her to believe she needs to kill Forge when she sees him. It gets a lot crazier than that, but the main point is he is testing Storm not only physically, but he's testing her mentally and spiritually, and you feel so much for Storm and just are amazed by her resilience. She's being put through the ringer, and even in the episode when he put her in the coffin, she's freaking out in part as well from all the crazy shit from her claustrophobia. So on all realms, she's being tested. Back with Charles and Lilandra on Chandelar, they are at some event where Deathbird crashes and basically calls Earth the Milky Way ghetto, and that Earth is inferior, basically on some Frieza type shit, and like a true Seant, she pulls the Imdasha card where they have to test his loyalty to the Shi'ar, and she gets to pick how, and she says you have to get all your memories of Earth and the X-Men erased. Again, huge C-word energy. So Charles is like, damn, can my X-Men do this by themselves? I have a bad biddy up here in space. I'm about to be the king. I can walk now. I would technically forget all the bad things that happened to me on Earth. Maybe they got something for me to beat the bald allegations up here, but what about my friends and my children? You know, then his girl is hitting him with the whole "do you love me" bit, and it's like, that's why I'm still here, bitch. I love you to death. Can't you see I'm struggling between your ass and my purpose, my X-Men. But since she's done so much, Charles feels he must oblige back, so he decides to go on with the process. They're doing such a great job of like stack enchanting the motivation, where like every line is another solid justification for an impending action or decision, and each reason adds weight towards either side of the predicament. It's not as simple as, of course, Charles will go back to the X-Men. It's drawn out to make it mean more, which is good shit. As we go back to our girl Storm, she has reached Snow Snake Tower holding the Midnight Chala, the cactus flower that will remedy Forge's bite, but she has to once again face her fears of claustrophobia to get it, and so like a true hero, she does just that and gets approached by the adversary once again, and it's creepy as ever, playing on all of Storm's fears and self-loathing until she accepts that it was her convincing herself that being human would be tempting was a lie she told herself that was actually holding herself back, besides just the executioner gun. And Storm has bars here, okay? You all are an echo of who I am, so let them be thunder, for I am lightning. Alison Seeley Smith just, absolutely went off the whole episode. She actually voiced the adversary too, which was like super badass. Like the triumphant build-up with the wind and the lightning and the music and the adversary getting creepier and more sinister as the episode progressed, and it's legit on some DBZ type shit. This is Goku turning Super Saiyan on Namek type shit as she regains her power and propels herself into the atmosphere, and I really don't know how, but materializes herself a whole new fit, her OG fit. I remember when this came out, so many Snyder fans were saying this was similar to the first flight from Man of Steel, but truthfully, I didn't see it. Although I'm not super attached to the scene, it's a great scene. Bo DeMayo has since confirmed it is, which of course led to an inch given, a mile taken from the cultists, which also for the people that are just anti-cultists, if the showrunner says it is taking inspiration from that, it's best not to argue with him. But I'm so glad Storm is back. She's just adorable in her new fit and her new hair, and the X-Men are in serious need of her, and at least she knows that now. I also just love what the adversary represents. Like issue 227 of Uncanny X-Men, they are able to defeat the adversary, but the X-Men have to like sacrifice themselves, and they go to this extra dimensional place where Storm asks if the adversary is dead, but this being tells her that he's technically like a primordial force, a being of chaos, so he must never die, because with chaos brings change, and change brings growth. Face your fears, embrace your fears, change, and you will oftentimes grow. That's good shit. And lastly, back with the Shi'ar, Charles is essentially getting roasted for hesitating on the Imdasha and renouncing the X-Men, and then all hell breaks loose, to which Charles is like, you know what, I got something for your asses, and traps everyone in the astral plane to teach them a lesson. And to be honest, I really, for whatever reason, can't take Charles seriously like this. I don't know what it is about his face and the voice. Ross Marquand is a dope voice actor, but for whatever reason, every time I see Charles, I think this shit is gonna go Boondocks mode or something. I don't know why. He just looks devious, man. But he teaches the Shi'ar essentially you're trying to finesse people and making them believe they're lesser, and you can help them to be more. You don't need to tear others down to propel yourself up. And then he gets hit with a vision of his X-Men and what happened in Genosha. This was just such crazy imagery. This show is just so good with that, and really with composition too. Everything looks so good. Charles vows to return to Earth, and I think he's about to be on some angry father timing, which I can't wait to see. The most powerful telepath in the Marvel universe go up against whoever the fuck is behind this, because the ending only leaves us with more questions, with Trask running from Sinister, saying he gave him access to the master molds. I wouldn't get why Sinister would want to do that, honestly, and I do believe Bastion is going to come through, but I think something more complex is in the works than I had initially thought, or anyone. That really is just a testament to the writing. All in all, is this technically a better episode than episode 5? No, but I wasn't expecting it to be. That's like a once in a series type episode, once in a decade. They can't be all that way, but it did what it needed to do, and I'd say it did a little bit more, because Storm's comeback was legit. Make the motivation solid, make the visuals strong, give us good dialogue, and make us feel, and you got yourself a dub. We got episode 7 next, Bright Eyes, so something Summers related for sure is coming through, a Captain America cameo, then the 3-part ending with Tolerance's extinction, which Bo said was his big one, so I just can't wait to see how this all unfolds. It's been such a pleasure to know each week there's a show that will just deliver, and you don't have to worry about that. I gotta give this episode a fluctuating 8 to 8.5 out of 10. Let me know what you thought of it though, players, and any predictions you might have for the end of the season. That's pretty much it. If you liked the video, leave me a thumbs up, comment down below, and if you want, subscribe. I always appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope all of you guys are well, and I will see you in the next one.